awareness, so we'll be moderating. Just checking you can all hear us here.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. And I'm guessing we've already tested the microphones for both the groups, so we should be okay. I have the 2 envelopes here for choosing which side will be in favour and against. Is this how you'd like to do it? Can I ask maybe Cadlet to choose either A or B, and then I can open it and see which side they'll represent today?
Okay. Hi, hello. Hello from Carlet. I think Elsa could choose if you want.
Okay, so you choose. Did you say A? A or B?
So we'll choose letter A.
Okay, so Elsa going for letter A. So let's see. Elsa, you're going to be the side of against. Is that it? So la derecha, Cadlet, will be for the motion. I can't hear, sorry. Perfect, so we'll just share the screen for 2 minutes of preparation. Okay, so we can go ahead with the opening from Cadlet.
Please, Julio Verne, stop sharing your screen. Thank you.
Ready?
My best friend doesn't believe in vaccines, and he's not hospitalized nor he died. Why? Because he thought that vaccinating was a silly thing that the government invented to control us. He's a good guy, but the misinformation on the internet and the foolish opinions of many people made him get to this point. I now know the importance of the vaccines, and luckily I didn't get vaccinated, so I'm not safer than many people are. Good morning, members of the jury, distinguished guests, teachers and students. Firstly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this debate. It means a lot to us. My name is Lucas Boluda, and today my teammates and I are going to prove that vaccines should be mandatory, and we are convinced we will make you change your mind during these debates. Paula will be in charge of the arguments, Minglai of the rebuttal, and Ines of the conclusion. We are going to talk about the importance of the vaccines in terms of hospital pressure and how it will be reduced with an increase of vaccination. Less people will get ill, and COVID infections will be almost harmless. We are also going to talk about how it affects others when taking a decision of not vaccinating, and why the freedom of an individual is more important than others' lives. Finally, we are going to talk about the way it affects others when not taking the vaccines, because the virus is spreading and it's helping it to spread, so it will evolve and mutate in a stronger variant. So yes, if you're wondering, so vaccines must be mandatory. COVID has damaged our lives in almost every aspect, and it's known that vaccines are the only way of solving this problem, definitely.
Perfect, thank you, very well done. Can we have the opening from Elche, please?
Breathing difficulties, permanent headaches, swollen toes, clots, or even death. These are some of the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine that have been reported, without counting those that may occur in the mid and long term. Before I start, let me explain what the term obligation means. Obligation is a requirement established by morality, law, or authority. So in this case, the COVID-19 vaccine will be a substance introduced in our bodies in a compulsory manner. Good morning, members from the jury, members from the opposing team, and public assistant. My name is Carlos Almira, and today my team made up of Chloe Tomas, the first rebutter, Claudio Yoya, the second rebutter, and Eduardo Nanaya, the concluder, and I are here today to defend our position totally against the motion. We are not going to convince you, rather to show you that it shouldn't be mandatory. We will base our argumentation on the following points. First, we will show you evidence that, according to the American Council on Science and Health, proves that the vaccine only meets 2 of the 5 criteria necessary for making a vaccine mandatory, demonstrating the lack of efficacy of the vaccine. Moreover, we will show you the huge differences between entering in the ICU with being vaccinated and with not being vaccinated. Then we'll talk about the serious and long-term side effects the COVID-19 vaccine, like Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, has in our bodies. And finally, we will talk about the article number 43 in the Spanish Constitution and what it establishes. We must remember as well that making the vaccine mandatory means denying people who, for any reason, cannot be vaccinated to continue with their normal lives. So, are we really willing to risk severely harming many people for the chance to help others? If we make the COVID vaccine mandatory, we will be condemning hundreds of people of lifelong and life-ending side effects. We cannot trade the lives of some for the lives of others. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. So now we can move on to the arguments. So we'll move back to Carlette, please. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, I'm Viola and I'm going to present the arguments. As my teammate previously mentioned, our team firmly believes that the COVID-19 vaccine should be mandatory as it has proved to bring many benefits to our society since it was introduced. Firstly, research from the CDC shows how the vaccine has reduced the risk of severe illness, deaths and infections, as well as the number of hospitalizations. Furthermore, the Our World in Data website shows how effective the vaccine has been in many countries. For example, in the US, we can see how the vaccinated population's death rates are extremely low, while the unvaccinated continue to rise. This decrease in hospitalizations and numbers of deaths has been a huge relief to hospital workers who have been working non-stop during this more than 2 years. So if we see that this method is working, why shouldn't we apply it fully by making the vaccine mandatory? Secondly, we believe that although it's true that we should have a choice when it comes to our body, as a society, we have the obligation to look out for each other, since by putting on the vaccine, you're not only protecting yourself, but also the rest of the population. Humans are a species that works in groups, and our nature is to protect each other. Therefore, we're not only putting on the vaccine for our own sake, but also for everyone else's. Our final argument is that, as we know, viruses are constantly changing and evolving throughout time, which leads to the emergence of variants, as we have seen with COVID-19. In this graph, for example, we can see how the different variants have evolved during the pandemic in Spain. And so by being up to date with the vaccines and by making them mandatory, we can prevent the emergence of new variants, as well as eventually causing the virus to die out, since it will not have a host to develop in.
Perfect, thank you so much. Now we can move back to Elche.
Good morning, I'm Chloe and I'm the first rebutter against the motion. According to American Council on Science and Health, there are 5 criteria to consider when deciding whether vaccines should be mandatory or not. The first one is efficacy. We don't know if the COVID vaccines will protect people long-term yet. The second criterion is safety. Clinical trials show that COVID vaccines are safe. However, there are still many side effects that I will mention later. The third criterion is severity. For example, tetanus causes pain and spasms that could lead to death. So why risk it when there's a vaccine that can prevent it? The fourth criterion is likelihood of infection, the ease of becoming ill, and lastly, contagiousness and method of transmission. Vaccines against diseases that are easy to catch are good candidates for being mandatory. When assessing these 5 criteria, COVID vaccines so far only satisfies criterion 4 and 5. Therefore, it cannot be made mandatory. Furthermore, people who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine reported developing severe cases of blood clots in the brain, lungs, abdomen, legs, or other parts of the body, along with low platelet counts, blood cells that normally help keep blood from clotting. People who received the Pfizer and Moderna develop myocarditis, inflammation of the heart, muscle, and pericarditis, inflammation of the outer lining of the heart. To sum up, as we have seen, vaccines are causing severe health problems. And last but not least, following what Article 43 of the Spanish Constitution establishes, people have the right to have their health protected, and it is the public authority's responsibility to care for public health by offering means and cures. So if we are giving the option to vaccinate or cure ourselves of other sicknesses, why should it be any different with COVID? You have the right to make your own decisions regarding healthcare, and no one should be forced to be vaccinated. Thank you for listening.
Perfect, thank you. So now we're going to put up the timer to give you 2 minutes for the preparation for the rebuttals. Okay, thank you so much. So now we're going to move on to the rebuttals. So if we could invite Carlet up to begin the 1 minute rebuttal.
Hello everyone, I'm Inlay and I'm going to be in charge of the rebuttal. I remember that the other team claimed that the COVID vaccine has many side effects, but my team believes that these side effects are not severe, and the cases of blood clots are very rare and are not confirmed to be because of the COVID vaccine. It can be because of other chronic diseases that are already affecting the person that got that secondary effect. Also, my team really believes that COVID vaccines are really good because what would you prefer? Having 1 or 2 days of headache and fever, or really dying because of the COVID-19, and also causing others to also take the COVID and die because of it.
Thank you so much. So Elche, would you mind coming up for the first rebuttal?
Good morning. I will be the rebuttal for my team. And as your partner said, even though COVID-19 cases may have decreased in the ICU, other side effects have been developed, such as severe blood clots, myocarditis, and pericarditis. Because of this insecure vaccine, the side effects plus the doubts it brings, we may encounter an even more aggravated virus or develop new diseases that our own immune system can't define. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go back to Carlet.
I also remember that the other team claimed that everyone has freedom to choose if they want or not to get vaccinated. But even if people have freedom to choose about their own body, as a community, we think that we should all look out for each other and take the vaccine in order that the virus will die out and will not infect other people, as it won't have a host to develop in. So as a community, we have to take care of each other and prevent the virus to spread out.
Thank you. We'll go back to Elke now.
As your partner mentioned, the importance of the vaccine in the hospital was very big. However, this could also be because so many people have already had COVID that they have antibodies that are protecting them from getting very sick and going to the hospital. Also, not having some long-term... Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No worries. Okay, let's go back to Carlet then for the final. Oh, that's it. Sorry. Threw me off. Now we have 2 minutes separation. Perfect. So now we'll go back to as chair for the conclusion against the motion.
Vale. May I start?
I'm on mute. Of course, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, honorable jury, members of the opposing team, and audience. My name is Eduardo Navia, and I am the concluder of my team. Today, we have been defending our posture against mandatory COVID vaccination. In the interim of the debate, the rival team has unsuccessfully tried to persuade us by using the following arguments. Number one, the importance of vaccine and how it has reduced COVID hospitalizations. Number two, the obligation to look out for others. And number three, the virus constantly mutating and eventually killing. As the arguments previously stated by my colleague Chloe demonstrated, the 4 requirements required for the supply of COVID-19 vaccines are not fulfilled, so its security is reduced in a wide proportion range. The COVID-19 vaccine can cause serious and long-term side effects. And of course, it violates fundamental human rights, as in the 43rd article of the Spanish Constitution, the right of health protection is recognized. I would like to end my speech by pointing out that we are not here to convince anyone. Here we are to prove our point of view against mandatory COVID vaccines and the risk involved in supplying them to the population. Before ending this debate, we'd like to express our most sincere gratitude towards Grupo Soraya for giving us this opportunity to take part in projects like this, in which we feel that contribute fantastically towards our education. To sum up, we have made our point clear. None of us can be forced to expose themselves to an unknown substance whose benefits are, to say the least, questionable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And then we can go back to Carlette for their conclusion.
Yes. So, good morning, members of the jury, distinguished guests, teachers, and students. My name is Inés Pellicer, and I take part of the debate league of La Devesa School Carlet. Firstly, let me thank you all again for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this debate. It's been a great experience. So, as we have seen, we strongly believe that we are right, and that vaccination should be mandatory. As we have said, there are factors to be considered, so many reasons why we should take the shot. So, as a final word, let me recapitulate our point of view with the help of our arguments. In our first argument, we talked about the fact that about the hospital pressure that we relieve. Hospitals have been working non-stop for the last 2 years, getting up to 100,000 new COVID cases a day at its worst. And as we said in our arguments, the vaccine has been proven to have a positive effect in the percentage of deaths. Then, in our second argument, we mentioned the fact that as a society, we have the responsibility or duty of protecting our people. And following up on this, as Paula said, we have to think about how many the percentage of elders and people with weakened immune systems that haven't been able to leave their home because of the fear of getting the virus, because for them it's a life or death situation. So by not taking the vaccine, you're not only risking your own safety, but everyone else's. Finally, in our third argument, we talked about the medical conditions not taking the vaccine could have. Viruses are known for changing and mutating. By not taking the vaccine, we would be allowing this virus to do this, which could result in more COVID-19 variants spreading and getting out of hand. I remember the other team claiming that making the vaccine mandatory would be taking away your right to choose, and even though see where they're coming from, we just don't see that is the right perspective on this issue, and that by looking at it from an outside point of view, the right choice is obvious. So moreover, I believe you're right in our position because we are trying to do something to get back our lives and safety. And if by taking the vaccine, there is a possibility of achieving that, then But at greater good, it's in our hands to do this. We should all take the vaccine.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of the debate. I just want to say well done. Everyone did fantastically and it was really dynamic and engaging. So good luck with the rest of your debates today.
Thank you so much. So we are starting the following one in 3 minutes, 1:15. Thank you so much. Welcome back, Blanca.
Hi.
Okay, we are waiting for one member of the judging panel to connect and we start. Oh, she's here. Okay, welcome back, Maria. Right, so this time is Elche against Julio Verne. Okay, so let's start again by choosing who is in favor and who is against. And I think it's now the time, excuse me, I don't have the camera on. Now it's the time of, for Elche, I think, to choose, because before it was, no, yeah? No, it's Julio Verne, I think. Elche before chose. So, Julio Verne, you decide. Are you there?
The red one.
Okay. In favor? Right, so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to give 2 minutes to prepare your debate. Okay, so Julio Verne starts whenever you're ready.
I start? Okay. So, as we all know, 2 years ago, COVID-19 appeared in China, and only 10 months ago, the vaccine appeared to fight the same virus. The vaccination has given us a huge policy all around the world because of the people who don't want to get it. But not only that, nowadays it is mandatory for everyone. Since that publication, lots of newspapers have written about it, saying that if we will be able to go through this situation the best way as possible. And here's when I ask you, should COVID-19 vaccination be mandatory? Good morning, members of the jury, affirmative team, and audience. Thanks for your attention. I'm Laura, and my team for by Celia, Telmo, Nacho, and Carla, representing Julio Verne School, strongly believes COVID-19 vaccination should be mandatory. We, the affirmative team, are going to persuade you in favor to compulsory vaccination, taking into account 3 arguments. What about the society? Well, in first place, we will be dealing with this question so that we can know how is this discussion being dealt all around the world and all the positive consequences it is having on us. Will the economy be the same with mandatory vaccination? It is said that if we don't have put the vaccine, the fewer people will have to stay at home from work, and maybe, but soon, the economy will come back as normal. And finally, will the transmission of the virus be minor? So taking into account that if we don't have put the vaccine, people at risk, such as elderly, will have less probabilities of getting infected. And before getting with the arguments, I will ask you one last question. Would you suffer just a second to save millions of lives? Thanks for your attention.
Elche, please.
Breathing difficulties, permanent headaches, swollen toes, clots, or even death. These are some of the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine that have been reported, without counting those that may occur in the mid and long term. Before I start, let me explain what the term obligation means. Obligation is a requirement established by morality, law, or authority. In this case, the COVID-19 vaccine will be a substance introduced in our bodies in a compulsory manner. Good morning, everyone. Today, my team from María Tomás, the first rebuttal, Claudia Lía, the second rebuttal, María Cremades, the concluder, and myself, Tiruye, we will defend our position totally against the motion. And we are convinced that after you leave this room, you will agree with us. We will base our argumentation on the three following points. Firstly, we are going to show you the evidence that, according to American Council on Science and Health, proves that COVID vaccines only meet 2 of the 5 criteria needed to make a vaccine mandatory, demonstrating the lack of efficacy of the vaccine. Then we'll talk about the serious and long terms that COVID-19 vaccines, as Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, could have in our bodies. And finally, we'll talk about the Article 43 from the Spanish Constitution and what it establishes. We must remember as well that making vaccines mandatory means denying people who for any reason cannot be vaccinated being able to continue with their normal lives. So are we really willing to risk several harming many people for the chance to help others? If we make COVID-19 vaccine mandatory, we are condemning hundreds of people to lifelong or life-ending side effects. We cannot trade life of some for lives of others. It's just ethically and morally wrong. Thanks for listening.
Okay, the rebuttal, Julio Verne, please.
No. Well, get us. Okay. Mandatory vaccination will massively reduce infections, and better yet, it will make hospitals less crowded and make more room for patients with other more serious problems than COVID, such as cancer patients who were overshadowed by the pandemic in 2020. It will also increase the enclosed spaces for the elderly, doubling the decrease in serious or contagious infections. Not to mention that measures and precautions will be reduced, such as the need to carry the COVID passport. If the vaccine is given to the whole country, they will have fewer symptoms when it comes to catching the COVID-19. And therefore, fewer sick people will have to stay home from work, which is a major problem today. Mandatory vaccination will bring the economy back to its natural state, without so many people missing to work and creating a balance in the market. It is politically correct to make the vaccine mandatory because the damage done to the environment, full of elderly people, and possible risk of contagion is exponentially less with this measure in place. Besides, setting an example indirectly to other neighboring countries by hesitating to make this measure mandatory, which in turn promotes and encourages the use of the vaccine. And now rethink Laura's question. Would you suffer a second to save millions of lives? Thank you for your attention, Yuri.
Elche, please.
Good morning, I'm Chloe, and I'm the first rebuttal against the motion. According to American Council on Science and Health, there are 5 criteria to consider when deciding whether vaccines should be mandatory or not. The first one is efficacy. We don't know if the COVID vaccines will protect people long-term yet. The second criterion is safety. Clinical trials show that the COVID vaccine is safe. However, there are still many side effects that I will mention later. The third criterion is severity. For example, tetanus causes pain and spasms that can lead to death. So why risk it when there's a vaccine that can prevent it? The fourth criterion is likelihood of infection, the ease of becoming ill. Lastly, contagiousness and methods of transmission. Vaccines against diseases that are easy to catch are good candidates for being mandatory. When assessing these 5 criteria, COVID vaccines so far only satisfy criterion 4 and 5. Therefore, it cannot be mandatory. Furthermore, people who received Johnson & Johnson vaccine reported developing severe cases of blood clots in the brain, lungs, abdomen, legs, or other parts of the body, along with low platelet counts. Blood cells that normally keep blood from clotting. People who received the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines developed myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis, inflammation of the outer lining of the heart. To sum up, as we have seen, vaccines are causing severe health problems. And last but not least, following what Article 43 of the Spanish Constitution establishes, people have the right to have their health protected, and it is the public authority's responsibility to care for public health by offering preventative means and cures. So if we are giving the option to vaccinate or cure ourselves of other sicknesses, why should it be any different with COVID? You have the right to make your own choices regarding healthcare, and no one should be forced to be vaccinated. Thank you for listening.
Now we have 2 minutes to prepare for the rebuttal. Okay, so Julio Verne, please.
When you say, we still think that the best option to stop the pandemic with fewer deaths and fast is to get the vaccine, because the other option will be to pass the COVID. But in this process, there will be lots of deaths, and as well, it will be so slow, because we have to wait to all the people to pass the COVID. As well, the Memorial Sloan Cancer Center says that it's not common to have several illness or death, but nothing is impossible, and in some cases happen. But according to La Tercera Foundation, says that if you are not vaccinated, you have 20 possibilities more to die and 5 possibilities more to go hospitalized, so it's a lot. You have mentioned that they are not safe and they are not effective, but according to the same center, the vaccines are among the most effective in the history of the medicine. They are as effective as the vaccine of polio, chickenpox, flu. They are 95% of effectiveness. So are you sure that you won't get the vaccine? That's it.
Elche?
Good afternoon, students and jury. According to your partner, the economy is, however, although during quarantine it was stopped, some sectors benefited from it. For example, the pharmacy industry had a tremendous economic growth thanks to the sale of masks, invention and redistribution of pills, and all the hydroalcoholic gels for homes and schools like ours. This may help the population when in search of medicine. They have everything they need in pharmacies. Thank you.
Thanks. Julio Verne again, please.
No. You've said that there is a law that don't obligate us to do things that we don't want, but getting vaccinated is also a generous act because you don't vaccinate for you, you vaccinate for the people that is around you. According to Mayo Clinic, vaccines can prevent you from contracting COVID-19. And imagine that you contract the COVID and you transmit it to your parents or to your fathers and they die. I'm sure that you will feel a feeling of guilty all your entire life. Also, UNICEF says that if more people are vaccinated, there is less chance of continuing spreading the virus, killing people, and developing other varieties more resistant to the vaccines. There are more rooms in hospitals to care for other illnesses, such as cancer. Getting vaccinated is our best hope for getting back to those moments we miss so much. So we have to act right now. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, Elche.
According to your partner, yes, some side effects are temporary. However, some long-term side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine can produce an allergic reaction. Those allergic people develop serious and even deadly diseases that require months of treatment and some even their whole life. For example, pericarditis, and blood clots, just like my partner Chloe just mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks again. Now I'm going to give you again 2 minutes to prepare your conclusions. Okay, so let's start with the conclusions, and we start this time with Elche, please.
Good morning, honorable jury, members of the opposing team and audience. My name is Maria Cremades, and I'm the concluder of the team. Today, we have been defending our posture against COVID-19 vaccines. In the interim of the debate, the rival team has tried unsuccessfully to persuade us by using the following arguments. The symptoms are reduced because of the vaccines, the economy can go down if people don't go to work, and that if it is ethically correct. However, you can still get infected despite having the 3 doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Our 3 arguments have been the 5 requirements required for the supply of COVID-19 vaccines are not fulfilled, so its security is reduced in a wide proportion range. COVID-19 vaccines can cause serious and long-term side effects. And finally, it violates fundamental human rights, as in the 43rd article of the Spanish Constitution, the right of health protection is recognized. I would like to end my speech by pointing out that we're not here to convince anyone. Here we are to prove our point of view against COVID-19 vaccines and the risks involved in supplying them to the population. Before ending the debate, we'd like to express our most sincere gratitude towards Grupo Sorolla for giving us the opportunity to take part in projects like this one, which we feel that contribute fantastically towards our education. To sum up, we've made our point clear. None of us can be forced to expose themselves to an unknown substance whose benefits are, to say the least, questionable. Thank you very much for listening.
Julio Verne.
As Laura has mentioned at the beginning, we have been dealing with this strong virus for 2 long years, and if you realize year after year, we remain the same. Don't you think we should start doing something to stop it? The time has come to do something against COVID-19. We must get vaccinated. I'm going to slightly summarize the arguments that my team has mentioned that will convince you to get vaccinated. Mandatory vaccination will massively reduce infections, and better yet, it will make hospitals not. Remember that the trigger that caused us to lock ourselves down during 3 months was the collapse in hospitals. Also, something that we would all like is that measures and precautions will be reduced, such as the need to carry the COVID passport. Wouldn't you like to go back to normal and stop being controlled by rules? I'm sure you do. The opponent team has mentioned that vaccines are not safe enough and effective, but we really believe that's not true. We still believe in their safety because in roughly 12 months of data, including data from tens of thousands of participants in clinical trials, show that vaccines are safe and effective at preventing diseases or death due to COVID-19. If we vaccinate all of the country, people will have fewer symptoms, they will be fewer sick, so they won't have to stay at home, which will bring the economy back to its natural state and will create a certain balance in the market again. So the fact that vaccines waste money is absolutely false in long term. Vaccination must be mandatory because the damage done to the environment, to elderly people and possible people at risk of contagion is enormously less if we put this measure in operation. Not only for that, but also to give an example of responsibility to other nearby countries so they reconsider making this decision and so be able to live in a better world for all of us and for future generations. Last but not least, they also said that they force us to do things we don't want. But there are times when we have to force ourselves to do things to improve society. So we have no doubt that vaccination should be mandatory. This is not just about you, it's about millions of lives. Are you seriously still thinking that we shouldn't do it?
Okay, so thank you so much to both the schools, and thank you so much again to the judging panel, okay, for this debate. See you soon. Thank you so much. We are going to start next one in 2 minutes. Elche, whenever you're ready, you are responsible for moderating these ones.
Can you give me just 30 seconds?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Right, is everybody ready?
We are ready.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi. Right, so I've got 2 envelopes, number 1, number 2. So I'm going to ask you please to choose one of them.
Okay. Can we choose?
I'll
choose number 2.
Sorry, I'm just trying to take these off. Right, number 2, you are, sorry, Estivali, that's Verne or Carlet?
Carlet.
Carlet, sorry. Right, so that's number 2, yeah? You're gonna be against. Right? That means Verne is gonna be in favor. So, just take notes. Right, so now you have 2 minutes. Let me share the screen. You're gonna have 2 minutes to prepare for it. Right. Sorry. So in favor starts, that means Julio Verne, whenever you're ready.
As we all know, 2 years ago, COVID-19 appeared in China, and only 10 months ago, a vaccine appeared to fight the same virus. The vaccine has given us a huge policy all around the world because of the people who don't want to get it. Since the publishment, lots of newspapers, no, but now it is mentioned that it should be mandatory for everyone. Since the publishment, lots of newspapers have written about it, saying that if we all get the vaccine, we will be able to go through this situation the best as possible. So here is when I ask you, should COVID-19 vaccination be mandatory? Good morning, members of the jury, affirmative team, and audience. Thanks for your attention. I'm Laura, and my team from by Celia, Nacho, Temo, and Carla, representing Julio Verne School, strongly believes that COVID-19 vaccination should be mandatory. We, the affirmative, are going to persuade you about this, taking into account 3 arguments. What about the society? Well, in first place, we will be dealing with this question, so we can know how is this discussion being dealt nowadays, apart from all the positive consequences that is having on us. Will the economy be the same with mandatory vaccination? It is said that if we all have put the vaccine, fewer people will have to stay at home from work, and maybe, but soon, the economy will come back as normal. And finally, will the transmission of the virus be minor? So, taking into account that if we all have put the vaccine, people at risk, such as elderly, will have less probabilities of getting infected. And now, before getting with the arguments, I will ask you one last question. Would you suffer just a second to save millions of lives? Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Verne. Carlet, whenever you're ready.
After various news from all over the world about the possibility of a global pandemic threatening mankind, the 14th of March 2020, the President of Spain addressed the population to inform us we had to stay a few days at home, just a few days. Then, these days turned out to be months. At first, we were told that masks were not important at all, but then they turned out to be mandatory. After an unprecedented development of vaccines, the fastest in history, we were told that 2 doses were enough to neutralize the disease. However, now some inhabitants already have the 3rd shot and things are still not getting better. Not to mention the controversy whether pregnant women to vaccine or not. Among all the disorder we have lived, what less than having the freedom of choosing? Good morning, members of the jury, distinguished guests, teachers and students. First of all, let me thank you for letting us participate in this debate. It means a lot for us. My name is Ana Martinez, and today my teammates and I will defend the idea vaccination shouldn't be mandatory. We are convinced that during this debate, we will make you change your mind. Menglai will be in charge of the argumentative part, Paula of the refusal, and Sarah of the conclusion. Let me introduce you our arguments. To start, freedom of decision. Just mentioned before. Following it, we are going to mention the politics and the company's interest, which can be economical rather than medical. And finally, in 3rd place, the safety of vaccines, as the side effects can affect a percentage of the population. And if vaccines are made mandatory, the government should respond to these effects. We all know vaccination is one among other measures, and hopefully it will function. However, does this mean we all shouldn't be allowed to choose by our own? Definitely not.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we move on to the first argumentation. Julio Verne, whenever you're ready.
Mandatory vaccination will massively reduce infections, and better yet, it will make hospitals less crowded and make more room for patients with more serious problems than COVID-19, such as cancer patients who were overshadowed by the pandemic in 2020. It will also increase safety in enclosed spaces. For the elderly, doubling the decrease ends contagious infections. Not to mention that measures and precautions will be reduced, such as the need to carry the COVID passport. If the vaccine is given to the whole country, they will have fewer symptoms when it comes to catching COVID-19. And therefore, fewer sick people will have to miss work, which is a major problem today. Mandatory vaccination will bring the economy back to its natural state without so many people missing to work and creating a balance in the market again. It is politically correct to make the vaccine mandatory because the damage done to the environment, full of elderly people and possible people of risk of contagion, is exponentially less with this measure in place. Besides, setting an example indirectly to other neighboring countries by hesitating to make this measure mandatory, which in turn promotes and encourages the use of the vaccine. And now think again Laura's question. Would you suffer a second to save millions of lives? Thank you for your attention, Yuri.
Thank you so much. Now you're going to have 2 minutes, to prepare for the refutations. Right, guys, just realized, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. I said we move on and I gave you 2 minutes extra for the refutation, and it was a time for Carlet for the first argumentation. I'm really sorry about that. So, Carlet, whenever you're ready. Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Please, can you stop sharing your screen? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, whenever you're ready, Carlet.
Ready.
As was already mentioned earlier in the introduction by my teammate, I am England, and today we've come here to this debate to defend that vaccines should not be mandatory and will not be acceptable. Making vaccines mandatory will lead to ethical, political, economic, and medical issues. My team really believes that this is because times have changed, and today people have more liberty than ever before. Each of us has the same rights, and we are the owners of our own freedom. Having us be mandatorily vaccinated would deprive us from that same freedom, or freedom to choose whatever we see convenient for us. Each of us has the privilege to do with our life what we want. as what is appointed in the Human Rights Declaration. Over time, with the development of new technologies, big companies and governments have been gaining more and more control of our daily life, and including everything we do and everything we see. With this comes the misinformation, which keeps us apart from the truth and used to fool us for their own economic convenience, just wanting us to get vaccinated to earn more money rather than for our own safety, as the vaccines are free for the consumers but not for the governments that buy them. Finally, vaccines take a very long time to be fully developed, so the vaccines created for COVID-19 have still not been fully tested to demonstrate that they are completely safe for everyone. Vaccines have secondary effects like fevers and headaches for many people, including the ones that are already weakened with other diseases and can be severely affected by these vaccines that have still not been fully tested to be safe. So considering all these aspects, we believe that people should be able to choose whether they want or not to get vaccinated in order to save us trouble. So what do you think about it?
Thank you. So now, this is the right one. You've got 2 minutes for the refutations. Yeah? Right, so you ready for the refutations? Juliana, please.
Hi, I'm Carla, and I'll firstly start saying that pressure at hospitals and collabs has decreased since people have been getting vaccinated. And another thing is that doctors can attend better to people who are suffering other illnesses, as cancer, for example, which haven't been previously good attended. A thing I would like to emphasize is that you previously said that the vaccine isn't effective or isn't secure. But the thing is that the RNA used for its creation has been studied for the last 20 years. According to La Tercera Foundation, people who aren't vaccinated have 20 more possibilities of dying than people who are vaccinated, and 5 more possibilities of getting hospitalized. Thank you.
Now, Carlet, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, so good morning, I'm Paula, and as you say, it is true that vaccines have helped reduce the number of COVID-19 cases. However, we believe that the vaccine is not 100% efficient, as there have been studies that have proved so, and they don't guarantee that you will not be infected with the illness. Furthermore, many people have been diagnosed with severe side effects that have affected them negatively, and as my teammate said, the vaccines have not been fully tested yet, so they haven't been proven to be completely safe. On another note, throughout the pandemic, we have seen how social distancing and wearing masks has already helped to reduce the COVID cases. So why should we impose the vaccines on the whole population just because some people are not being responsible?
Thank you, Julio Verne.
Yes. As part of the society, we must think for the common good and the health of the group. And we totally think that getting vaccinated is the right thing to do as a generous act for our society. It's obvious that the vaccine can have secondary effects, but this is not the only one, as other vaccines previously have had other secondary effects. But the thing is that getting vaccinated is the only way to get back to the normality we all miss a lot, and it's the right thing to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Julio Verne. Sorry, Carlet.
The opposing team also mentioned that by making vaccines mandatory, we would return the economy to its original state, and it would improve it since people will be working outside from home. However, it is true that the lockdown has also brought many benefits to our economy, especially to companies, as by working from home, people can now have more job opportunities as mobility is not an issue. So they could be working in a company in Poland while they're in their home in Spain, and it will not be an issue. Furthermore, it would also reduce the company and personal expenses, as the company does not need to invest as much money when it comes to the offices. In addition, the pandemic and the lockdown have also encouraged technological development, and now people from all ages are familiar with technology, which has greatly improved our economy and society as a whole. Thank you.
Right, guys, so now 2 minutes again to prepare for your final thoughts, yeah? Share the screen. Hi guys, so now it's time for the final thoughts, conclusions, and Carlet starts again, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, members of the jury, distinguished guests, teachers, and students. My name is Sara, and I take part of the debate league of La Devesa School Carlet. Firstly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this debate. It means a lot to us. The motion for the debate today is if COVID-19 vaccines should be mandatory. As we have said, we strongly believe that it shouldn't, for several reasons. As a final word, let me recapitulate our point of view with the help of our arguments. Our first argument is that the vaccination being mandatory would trick us out from our freedom to choose. We should be able to make our own personal decisions. Secondly, we wanted to mention that this doesn't only affect us morally, but also medically. In fact, the COVID-19 vaccine hasn't been completely proved to be safe. We only have to make a little research on the internet to find out people with problems such as headache, fatigue, fever, and greater difficulties in the long term. Our last argument is that many companies and the government want us to be vaccinated because of their own benefit rather than our safety. I remember the other team claiming that we should equally protect ourselves and everyone else, but in our opinion, it will always be more important to make our own decisions and not being deprived from our own thinking. The point is, whatever a government does, it will face opposition. COVID restrictions in particular have drawn protests all over the world. When it comes to vaccines, people do think very differently. Anything that's administered into their bodies is not going to be thought of it in the same way. Do we really think that we should be having our decisions taken by government? We should start making our own personal decisions and considering all side effects of getting the vaccine. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlet. Verne, whenever you're ready, you can start.
As Laura has mentioned at the beginning, we have been dealing with this virus during 2 long years. And if you realize, year after year, we remain the same. Don't you think we should start doing something to stop it? The time has come to do something against COVID-19. We must get vaccinated. I'm going to slightly summarize the arguments that my team has mentioned that will convince you to get vaccinated. Mandatory vaccination will massively reduce infections, and better yet, it will make hospitals less crowded. Remember that the trigger that caused us to lock ourselves up during 3 months was the collapse in hospitals. Also, something that we would all like is that measures and precautions will be reduced, such as the need to carry the COVID passport. Wouldn't you like to go back to normality and stop being controlled by rules? I'm sure you do. The opponent team has mentioned that vaccines are not safe enough. But we really believe that's not true. We still believe in their safety because in roughly 12 months of data, including data from tens of thousands of participants in clinical trials, show that vaccines are safe and effective at preventing diseases or death due to COVID-19. If we vaccinate all of the country, people will have fewer symptoms. They won't be sick. So this will bring the economy back to its natural state because they won't stay at home. Also, it will create a certain balance in the market again. So the fact that vaccines waste money is absolutely false in long term. Vaccination must be mandatory because the damage done to the environment, to elderly people and possible people at risk of contagion is enormously less if we put this measure in operation. Not only for that, but also to give an example of responsibility to other nearby countries so that they reconsider making this decision and so be able to live in a safer world for all of us and for future generations. Last but not least, they have also said that they force us to do things we don't want to. But there are times when we have to force ourselves to do things to improve society. So we have no doubt that vaccination should be mandatory. This isn't just about you, it's about millions of lives. Are you seriously still thinking that we shouldn't do it?
Right, thank you everyone. I hope you have enjoyed it. I sure have done it. Good job, and I guess that, I don't know, we'll see the results. I don't know when, but soon enough. Good job everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much everybody as well, and we will know the results after Easter. Well done everybody, great speech, and thank you for participating. Good luck for everyone, okay? Thanks a lot, you've done a great job. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.